We heard earlier in the program from a winner of a Nobel Prize. We heard from the winner of a Pulitzer Prize. Our next presenter, a year ago, was awarded something perhaps more valuable, a presidential commutation of a prison sentence for a first-time nonviolent drug offense. John Forte's career, his musical career, is back full force. Please welcome John Forte.
This might take me another 30 seconds of adjustment, if you don't mind. It's always so interesting. You know, you mention prison and people are like, well, I don't really know if I should applaud that. Nobel I get. I understand. It's not lost on me. That's cool. I have time, limited time, so I'm gonna let the music speak first, and then I'll pepper it with lighthearted conversation that hopefully makes sense in between. These are critical times, love. The fight is more subdued. They say that lake is dry enough. I'll walk across for food. They say that lake is dry enough. I will find a way through. And when that water dries up, I will come back for you. I will come back for you. You've never left my mind, love. This road was long and steep. When hard work ain't too near enough, I left while you were asleep. When hard work ain't too near enough, I had a promise to keep. And when I finally earn enough, I will be by your feet. I will be by your feet. Well, these are difficult times, love. It's hard enough to bear. They say the skies are clearing up. I look up in the air. They say those skies will clear up. I will see home from here. And when they finally open up, I will be with you, dear. I will be with you, dear. Well, these are critical times, love. The fight is more subdued. They say that lake is dry enough. I'll walk across for food. They say that lake is dry enough. I will find a way through. And when that water dries up, I will come back for you. I will come back for you. Actually, I don't get nervous anymore when I perform, except for that song right there, because I don't do that song by myself. So I felt really vulnerable just then, in the interest of disclosure. But the rest of this stuff, watch, you're in for a real treat. Like, you won't even think about seeing me sweat at that point. So that song, Critical Time, that song came to me while I was sitting at my bunk in prison reading the Financial Times. It sounds so awkward, doesn't it? But it's true. I swear to you, it's absolutely true. I'm sitting there and I'm reading FT. That's what we who read the FT call it, the FT. And there was an article about Lake Kinneret and how it's just depleting at this alarming level. And there's a committee. There's like a Lake Kinneret committee. And every year that the water recedes a little bit more and more, they draw this red line on the gauge and they said, you know what? If the water recedes to this red line, we're going to stop. Or we're going to impose sanctions for excessive use or something like that. But of course, as we're accustomed to doing, we adjust so the water gets to that level, and somebody goes, and they draw a new line that's a little bit lower, and they say, next year, if the water gets to this level, we're gonna, impose sanctions. So then I thought to myself, how ironic would it be if what we used to build communities around, i.e. bodies of water, now becomes nothing more than a symbolic passageway. But we're no longer trying to sustain life around it, but we're just waiting until it dries up, until it's low enough for us to just walk on through it and find the next place to ravage. But I'm not a pessimist. I'm not. I'm really not. How could I be? I had a 14-year prison sentence, and 7 years into it, former President Bush let me out. But I'm not pardoned, and it's widely misreported that I'm the recipient of a pardon, which means that when I traveled to Dublin a couple months ago and they swiped my passport, her computer screen lit up. The agency, like, sir, do you have something you want to tell us? Yeah, I'm a convicted felon. We might need to talk about that. But but it's cool. They let me back in the country. So my music, I think, speaks more eloquently to the story than I ever could, although I really do try to. I don't have the luxury of ignoring where I've been for the past 7.5 years. And not a day goes by that I don't think about some really good people that are still there who don't have the blessing that I do, and that's to come home earlier. And this is a song that every time I perform, I dedicate to them because I do remember them, and it's a cover of a Kate Bush song called Running Up That Hill with my twist on it. And if I only could make a deal with God and get him to swap our places, be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. Light up the firmament, the only constant is impermanence. You could say there was a turn of events through some divine laughter. Should it stay awoken, a chapter closed when the gates open. Resurrected on my 33rd. 7 years was sufficient, God. I memorized every word I heard. If my demise were for naught, may I learn anew another language more wise and then return to you. The sum of parts make us, so with God's graces, if your burden gets too heavy, may we swap places. I've been to hell and back, but never take it wrong. The fact remains that some will never make it home until we sit again, do this, that, and this again. Hold your head to remember is the discipline. Until we sit again, do this, that, and this again. Hold your head. And if I only could make a deal with God and get him to swap our places, be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. This is cost risk analysis. Think before your dalliances. Let us build upon what balance is. Take heed as if you've been warned. Talk less, listen more, and improve your form. Don't get caught up in the cipher. The news is on. Pay attention to it. Too many crews are gone. How many apes does it take to defuse a bomb? That's why so many right-hand men lose an arm when you see what you want to see. Sideways don't perform for me, so when you speak, it's in front of me. Take me to your leader, for the sake of Peter. Get it through your heads, freedom doesn't make you freer. Until we sit again, do this, that, and this again. Hold your head to remember is the discipline. Until we sit again, do this, that, and this again. Hold your head. And if I only could make a deal with God and get him to swap our places. Running up that road, running up that hill, running up that building. And if I only could make a deal with God and get him to swap our that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. The guitar is not my first instrument. And I don't really fancy myself much of a guitarist. I had a lot of time on my hands, so I learned how to accompany myself because I have a firm root in urban music, having produced and wrote and performed with the Fugees and any number of other groups. So you might hear me rap, and I hope that the raps don't offend the senses. But I think that the raps that I'm doing these days are much different than the raps that I did in the old days. Although I'm not quite as successful as I was in the old days. I did an interview before I came out here with Be More, and it's a local cable show. And they asked me, what are you doing? And I think that I'm doing what I think I know how to do best, and that's to make music. And I'm trying to communicate with young people. I'm trying to communicate with old people. I'm trying to communicate with black people, with white people, with gay people, with straight people through my music. Because I think that there's something there. And when a kid only has two options, as what Sonia, so eloquently spoke about earlier, with your back up against the wall and there's a precipice before you, well, it seems like your world is limited. So I think that what I'm trying to do is offer an alternative to what might be popular, which might be explicit, which might be derogatory, which might be misogynistic. Not to say that I haven't done those things. I've participated in all walks of that life, but well, now things are different. Now I want to be able to play music for my mom and for my niece, and for both of them to be able to appreciate it and to still say something that I think is relevant and poignant and cogent and accessible. So I think that my music is more hardcore now, ironically, than ever, because more people have access to it. The next song is the first single off of my EP, which is called StyleFREE, the EP, and it's a 7-song EP. And I know you're not supposed to sell stuff from the stage, but I am, because I'm an independent artist. I'm selling it right outside as soon as this performance is over. And I'll sign it, I'll pose photographs with you, I'll do all that. I'll write your kid a recommendation letter to college. This song is called Play My Cards For Me. I, John, who am also your brother and companion, I stood atop a mountain and saw you down there in the canyon. If I fall asleep, play my cards for me, it wouldn't bother me. You are a part of me, others have fallen too. Instead of falling through, I hold these thoughts for you. My love, I, John, who am also your friend and sympathizer, I bear witness to your speech as you only grew wiser and wiser. And I, well, if I fall asleep, play my cards for me, it wouldn't bother me. You are a part of me, others have fallen too. Instead of falling through, I hold these thoughts for you. My love, I, John, who am also your rock through years of war. I know deep within that we have all been here before. Well, if I fall asleep, play my cards for me, it wouldn't bother me. You are a part of me, others have fallen too. Instead of falling through, I hold these thoughts for you. My love, John, falling to instead of falling through. I hold these thoughts for you, my love, my. So it's a story. I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. Brownsville, Brooklyn, born and bred, and single parent, raised by a single parent, that is. My mother, Flo, who's probably watching online right now. She stalks me on Twitter and Facebook. Love you, Mom. Love you. I did well academically, and I had the opportunity to go away to Phillips Exeter for 4 years, and so I went from Brownsville to Exeter, culture shock. I then returned home and went to NYU for about 2 weeks because I had the opportunity to join the music business. And I did as an executive for a startup record label that ended up doing really well after I left. I met a young woman named Lauryn Hill, and she introduced me to her band. And they were called the Fugees, and she knew that surreptitiously at the end of each day I'd go into the studio and I'd make beats and I'd write raps. And she said, "You have to come and participate in this new album that we're making called The Score." I'm like, "No, I'm an executive now. I don't want to be an artist." So she twisted my arm, not quite, and I went over to the studio and I played music for them, and that led to me participating, producing, and performing with one of the biggest hip-hop groups of all time. I had more money than I ever dreamt of having, more mobility, more access, more ego, more pride, more vanity, so everything that came with that. So then by the time it came for my solo album to come out, and we released it through Sony, although it was met with with critical acclaim, it was met with commercial disappointment. We sold about 100,000 units back then. Today, that's a huge hit, but back then, after selling, 12 million with the Fugees, 4 million with Wyclef, and you only do 100,000. And I'm like, "Screw you, you guys messed up, you weren't smart enough to do your job." So they said, "Really? You're dropped." So I said, "Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna be an independent artist. I'm gonna go find my own way to do it." So finding my own way was involving myself in a criminal enterprise. Essentially a drug ring, if you will. And it was never to be a drug dealer as much as it was, and this is how I justified it, as much as it was to nurture my new independence. It was to support the music. I told that to the judge and jury, and they said, "No, we're not buying that. You were involved, knee deep in it, so you get 14 years in a federal prison." And it was during that time in federal prison when I asked myself, the hard questions. Who am I, and what's important to me, and why am I here? And you had every opportunity to do things the right way, and you messed up. And I turned my back on music for a long time until I didn't. And I started playing the guitar, and I started writing again. And my time is running out. But I want to do my favorite song for you first, because I think that it tells my story better than my stammering in between songs ever could. It's called The Breaking of a Man, but do not be deceived by the title. It's positive. I know you've seen the breaking of a man. You've taken all you can, as if the house we made was laid across the sand. Oh Lord, penalties for suffering can seem so hard. Dreaming the days when everything's so dark. Tried to walk good, where does that road start? Show I, John, thought exercises sought out to advise and add on. I changed the thinking you so proudly had on. This mobilizing effort, it picks up from where the best of the best came and left it. The treasure of truth I mix, drinks within a booth. They can't be measured with youth. I break leaven with the seven and let whatever produce my past estrange the light. If change is right, you can say the judge killed me. Then I came to life, a newborn, like a neophyte. Fruitful love from the tree of life. This is the letter I don't need to write. Peace, Selah, bless the stars. If I don't breathe tonight, if If I don't save you from yourself, maybe Jesus might. What I envision is better, steady, higher living from this system, though some dudes might be dead already. I graduated from a school where the minds varied to hold a burden known to those that only time carries. This cherry blossom, a martial artist, studied the chi written on gossamer, tutored by philosophers demonstrably. I deconstruct the subpar and put them back together like the monsters be. How you want it, obvious or subconsciously? If every man has his price, who sponsors me? You should do more than just drink responsibly. You see, even in the mountains, Lord John was free. I know you've seen the breaking of a man. You've taken all you can, as if the house we made was laid across the sand. Oh Lord, penalties for suffering can seem so hard. Dreaming the days when everything's so dark. Tried to walk good, where does that road start? Show. As fate would have it, they would have me talking savage, like the average among us, and not confined to the youngest. I'm like the magical healer / masterful builder. I know the riddle of steel is in the hands of the wielder. They tried to shatter my leader, do bad to the breather, for living page 27 from the Bhagavad Gita. So when his time stopped, where he lay, read I'd rather be hated for what I am than loved for what I'm not. You can't subtract logic. I put tulips on his grave and waxed philosophic to the words he gave. Read my lips, it's a new day running, and it ain't coming 'cause it's here for the taking. This has been years in the making. I spent years in a station waiting to make this entrance. I'm here to free the world, young star. What's your intention? This is warfare, youngin'. The lightning is flashing now. Tune in and let's see what's happening now. One way or another, it's going down. I know you've seen the breaking of a man. You've taken all you can, as if the house we made was laid across the sand. Oh Lord, penalties for suffering can seem so hard. Dreaming the days when everything's so dark. Tried to walk good, where does that road start? Show. Thank you, TEDx. My name is John Forte.